Hi guys, welcome back to the next episode of Mortgages Made Easy. I'm joined today by someone who's taken the property world, social media by absolute storm, and that's Louise. Welcome, Louise. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get into agency? What was the journey for you getting into the wonderful world of estate agency?
I got into agency because I bought my first property, and my experience in buying that property was so bad that I was like, no, there needs to be a switch up in this industry.
Yeah.
I think you probably know I was an actor before I was in real estate.
Yeah.
So I then swapped careers and I ended up literally falling into agency post buying something and having a really bad experience with an agent.
Oh, right, okay. So obviously you did acting for a long time before you were in agency. Do you ever find any of the skills that you picked up from acting, I'm not saying that you're acting in your job or anything, but do you ever find any sort of your confidence and stuff, especially with the social media stuff? Do you find any of that stuff that you picked up from acting useful in your day-to-day stuff that you do now?
100%.
Yeah.
I think acting in general, being like performing in general, just gives you such a good foundation for knowing yourself, having the confidence to just trying new things. And just, being a bit of a chameleon, especially when you're an actor, you literally get trained to read a room, read body language, read people, which is such transferable skills for sales.
Do you feel like you're good at reading people in terms of buyers and vendors and stuff like that?
Oh, I'm like an encyclopedia right now. I will notice every single thing.
I feel like I'm being judged. So obviously you've worked with some big agency names. You worked at Douglas and Gordon, you worked at Knight Frank, and now you're doing something completely different. How did you find, or was there a moment in particular when you were working for those brands or what you're doing now where you thought, I'm really, really good at this, I can make this a career? Is there a particular moment that you found that?
When I kept getting promoted.
Oh, toot.
No, it was, I just enjoyed people. And I think that really is the basis of this industry. You know, it's so people led, and it gave me an opportunity to not be stuck behind a desk. I was out and about, I was meeting people all of the time. You really see a different side to people when you're in their home and when you're dealing with, in a lot of cases, very intimate details about why they're selling or why they're buying, and it's all just really relationship based. So when I started to be successful, but then also put that alongside how much I loved being around people and meeting different types of people, it was kind of a no-brainer to continue this as my career.
Okay. Have you found the transition, obviously going from the high street agent type model to doing what you're doing now? Have you found that an easy transition? Have you found it more difficult, but as you've just sort of gone on, it's become a lot more easier?
I think I found it easier than most people have,
really,
if I'm honest. And that's because I was self-employed for so long before I was in the corporate space. So I naturally have that hustle instinct within me. It also helped that I had been building a social media following for so many years before I went self-employed, because that is a huge basis of my business and where I get a lot of my business from. So the transition for me was quite fluid. It's just a very different way of working, but in my personal opinion, a much more enjoyable way for someone like me to continue to work.
Do you think making that move over to doing what you're doing now has opened more doors for you? Or do you think there's some parts where it has become a little bit tougher? Do you think there's sort of a balance between the two? Or do you think generally it's just got easy because it's just a completely different challenge from what you were doing before?
I wouldn't say it's easy at all, right?
No.
Because you wake up in the morning and there's no element of
safety net.
Yeah, there's absolutely no element of salary that's guaranteed. So you have to very much be a proactive person to go out and get some business. But it was easier in the sense of the type of person I am. This is how I enjoy working. When you're working in the corporate space under a particular brand in a particular office, you become an expert of a particular postcode, and that's kind of all you're allowed to end up trading in.
Yeah.
Since I've been self-employed for just over a year now, you know, I've sold things in South London, I've sold things in North London, I've rented things in East London. You know, it's all over, and Central London. So it's just been able to open up this whole new world where I can transact anywhere, and I also am free to network and collaborate with everyone in the industry rather than have to adhere to the rules of the corporate umbrella that I work for.
I mean, that was going to be my next question, was working as a self-employed agency. Obviously, everyone just assumes you're going to be on your own every day. There's no one to sort of bounce off. But obviously, when you're in the corporate world and you've got an office with 4 or 5 different negotiators and managers that you're working with, whereas now you can kind of pick and choose who you want to work with. And that's kind of a luxury that I don't think a lot of people understand, is it's not just, you're not out there on your own. You've got people that you can bounce off. And obviously you do that really, really well. Because you bounce off people from lots of different agencies and you collaborate. Do you find that a lot more endearing than the old way of, as you said before, just dealing with your one patch than the one office that you can? You can now go out there and just basically choose who you want to work with. Do you prefer that than
100%. Yeah. But then in saying that, you also have to be very aware of that, right? Because you are self-employed, so people can make decisions whether they want to work with you or not. So, you know, you just always have to be very aware. The industry is really small, and that's where I think some people potentially make mistakes, because they think very short-sighted about deals. You know, they'll think about this particular deal that they're working on, and they won't care about the repercussions of maybe the relationships that they might change if whatever they end up doing in that transaction, how that may affect their future business 5 years down the line. So
it's interesting that you say that the industry's small, because I think a lot of people just assume the industry's massive because of the way that it's portrayed in the media and prime central London. But the amount of people that you bump into all the time that you've known for years and years and years, it is a very, very small world. Really, really small.
I think people who are worth knowing in the industry, there's a small pocket of people.
100%. Because I think there's a lot of people that do come in and out a lot. You know, some people join it straight from university, do it for 4 or 5 years, do quite well, but then they just go off and they do something completely different, which is fair enough. And I think there's a big appeal to estate agency when you're fresh out of university, or, you know, when it's one of your first jobs at 20 or something like that. But when you've been in it for so long, or such a long time, and you garner such a big attention for yourself, you're undoubtedly just going to keep on bumping into these people as time goes on. And even when you think, well, I'll probably never see that person again, you end up bumping into them more and more and more, and then you end up collaborating a hell of a lot.
I mean, go to the Lomrez party and
you should bump into old faces all the time. That's all it literally is, isn't it? It's just a get together of, I know all these people, so this is quite fun. What would be your sort of number one tip for anyone that's looking to build their own sort of brand and get into sort of property at your sort of level, and do the self-employed model, do this sort of, you're running your own business? What would be your sort of number one tip that you would give those people?
See, it's really hard because I've organically fallen into this space and organically fallen into the self-employed route. So I'm able to have the success that I'm able to have now because I had such a strong foundation in the corporate space. And there's this new kind of new fashion out there of this new generation of agents who are looking to come straight into the self-employed luxury space, and they're not looking to do the back work of the corporate lead up to it. And so it's hard for me to relate to that, to be completely honest, because that's not how I started. I would say whatever level you're trying to be, whether it's in the corporate space or straight into the self-employed route, you need to know who you are and who you attract in terms of your market. You need to network your socks off and just ensure that you're building a personal brand from day one.
Okay. Do you ever look back on the old corporate world of old agency and just think, why are some people still doing it? Why is it still around? When you can clearly see on social media, on everything, that the world is just transitioning into what you're doing now and what a lot of those agencies are doing. Do you ever just look back on it and think, why is it still around in the way that it is?
Yes and no. I think that there is a foundation that you learn there that is, you know, it's an incredible foundation that you can get. You can't teach someone without them physically doing it. The pain or, you know, the competitiveness of sitting in an office with 8 other negotiators and you all have to make 50 calls within a 2-3 hour time frame, and you've got to be the person to book the most viewings. You know, it's like it teaches you a foundation of agency that if you come straight in at the self-employed route and you're working on your own time frame and, you know, you're networking in the gym or you're networking in a private members club, or it's just a very different way of doing things. So I think that there's definitely pros to it. I think a lot of agents who start in that space and do the hard graft and work their way out of it into the self-employed space are very, very talented agents. But I also think that there's cons in terms of there's certain mindsets within that space that is quite old school, and they discourage a lot of collaboration. You know, they want to keep you pigeonholed. They don't want your name to be bigger than the brand. So I don't think that there's a problem with big corporates as such. I think that there's a problem with big corporates being intimidated by the power of an individual instead of having a star in their space and using that star to work alongside the brand. I think that they need to change their mindset on that.
Are you surprised that hasn't happened at all? That there's not, because you see obviously collaboration between agents, independent agents all the time, and you see you tagging lots of other independent agents on listings that you're getting on and stuff like that. But you don't see it with bigger corporates. You don't just sort of tag some of the bigger agencies as a company. Do you think that's a massive error from the corporate agency side?
But that just goes back to the old school KPIs of they want to be seen as the ones with the majority market share, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't want to be seen to be sharing because they want all of the accolades for themselves. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I think it's a mistake though.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Because I think they're missing out on a massive, I think as you said before, the amount of people that you get to network with on a daily basis. And when you're able to list something and have someone else essentially sell it for you who doesn't work in the same company, doesn't work under the same brand, but there's an agreement. They want to get it sold. You want to get it sold. Why wouldn't you do that? And it just seemed, I mean, I did 10 years in corporate agency and it was very much, there was never a talk about split fees or anything, collabing with smaller agents or anything like that. And at the time, the self-employed model wasn't around. I remember the biggest threat at the time was online agency, and we'll sell you home for 250 quid. And you're thinking, how's that ever going to take off? And that kind of model is not really around anymore.
No.
But it's from my mindset of when I was there, it was, we don't work with anyone. It's all about us. But nowadays it's just so much more common.
But that agent that you used to work for, they are now actively approaching brokers like myself. And like there's a girl who I work with at that private office. We work together all the time. And you know, we have a friend, whenever she has something new, she calls me. And but is that the agent or is that the
But then I think it's I guess from what you said, it's more about the corporate agent having the trust in the individual and probably the individual going to them and saying, I want to do this. I've got a good relationship with this agent. I've listed something. I think he or she can sell it. I want to do it and I want to do split commission. And it almost they almost don't really have a choice, because if they've got a name behind them and they're in that corporate space, what are they going to say? No, it just doesn't make sense. They kind of buckle to it, really. But it just, it surprised me it doesn't happen more and more and more. When you see the success that people like yourselves are having, it's crazy. But
it's just a different mindset. I personally would prefer to collaborate on 10 deals than do none. You know, I think it's better to be doing business in general than to just say, no, this is just me, and unless I'm doing it all myself, I'm not interested.
But it's also it's the collaboration that you spoke about before, where you are sharing the deal with someone else, and then 3 months' time they'll give you a call and say,
we'll do something else together.
Let's do something else.
Yeah.
And it's all about those opportunities and creating those opportunities. So the next things I wanted to sort of move on to was talking about obviously women in this industry. Obviously, at an entry level, from an agency perspective, it's very dominated by women. But the higher up you get, it's not so much the case. And I think I can say that. I've worked in the industry for nearly 20 years now. I can definitely say that. But you're sort of helping, I think you're helping break that. In doing what you're doing is you're sort of pushing that barrier and you're pushing sort of beyond that. How have you navigated it, or how are you trying to navigate that sort of senior sort of step up as a woman in this industry?
You know, I talk about this quite often because I personally think it's difficult for women in general, because at the time where we are most fertile in our biological clock is actually at the time where we're probably about to get to the most successful part of our career.
Yeah.
So we a lot of the time have to make a choice. You know, what route do we go down? Do I continue the career and risk not having kids, or do I have the kids and then take a step back in the career? So it's actually really hard, is the reality.
Yeah.
I think also in terms of the way that corporates, if we're talking about the corporate space, are traditionally set up, you know, the reality is the hours are pretty much impossible for women with children or people with children, right? When you've got school pickups and drop-offs and nursery. So it's just a very hard space to be in. That is just the you know, day-to-day of it, let alone then the in the corporate space where it is still predominantly, I mean, where I was working previously, it's still predominantly run by men at the very top level. There's very old school mentalities on how much success a woman can bring to the table, also how much success a mother can bring to the table, because will her priority be the business and the office and the company, or will it be her children if they're off sick one day, you know? And you have a woman who has the drive to just, you know, smash through all of those glass ceilings. What resources are there to enable her to be able to do that? So it's a very difficult one to navigate.
Yeah. Have you felt, obviously being in the industry as long as you have you felt that there is a bit of a glass ceiling in terms of where women or people can go to, and obviously trying to push through that barrier as much as you possibly can do?
I think they want there to be a barrier where women can go
Polite
to.
bias, maybe, should I say.
But if you actually look at the reality of the biggest sales in London in the last however many years, and the top performing negotiators in all of these companies, and the top listing agents in all of these companies, I'll bet you that there's women who are holding those positions.
Yeah, 100%. You've got a really good social platform now. Really, really good. You've obviously been building it for a number of years, but yours really started to sort of garner some really, really good attention. Do you feel a bit of a responsibility to sort of help the next wave of women looking to do the same or come into the industry?
I think it's just important to show that you can do it, right? You can be a mother who is absolutely in love, obsessed with her child, but you can also equally be in love and obsessed with your career. And there's this motion of you have to choose. I don't think you have to choose, but you just have to be aware that it's a balancing act. And I like to do both things fully, right? I love being a present mum, but I'm obsessed with my work and my business. So it's just showing on my platform that, you know, I'm a woman who does both of these things, and it is possible, because I think especially the way that things are portrayed, you feel like you have to make a choice, like I just said. So yeah, I just like to show, you know, I'm doing it, you can do it too.
Do people reach out to you on social media?
All the time. I get messages all the time from predominantly women saying, oh, you know, I've just had a baby, I feel like I can go back to work because I've seen your journey, or, oh, I'm a single mum and you know, you inspire me to keep going, or just all of the time. I get the same kind of messages, which just shows that, yeah, you know, I need to continue to show that I'm doing what I'm doing. My page has always been quite personal because it started as a personal page. But it's just continuing to elevate my stories so it can help inspire other people with theirs.
How do you feel when people reach out to you and tell you that you're inspiring them and all that kind of stuff? How does that make you feel? personally?
To be honest, I'm just doing my thing,
Yeah.
right? And I don't mean that in any other way than, I'm so goal driven,
Yeah.
and I see my socials as, I'm just sharing my journey with you. I'm not actively sharing on socials to inspire a generation. I'm doing it to be like, cool, do you want to watch my journey? This is where we're going. So it does sometimes take me by surprise a bit, because I don't realize that I have that role in some people's lives. But then it's always, it's amazing to hear. And it's encouraging, because I also get down days,
Yeah, everyone does.
We're all
Everyone
human
does,
here.
yeah.
So those types of messages tend to come through on days that I also myself need a little pick me up. So,
and it does pick you up.
Yeah.
But I think it's because you're very relatable. So it's easy to watch your content and follow your content and think, as a person, I can do that. That's really inspiring. That's what you're doing is something that I could definitely go out there and do, and there's no reason why I'm not. Even from someone that wants to grow their social platform, some of your stuff is incredible that you post, but it's just following what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. It's not, it's not set up, it's not fake or anything like you see some of these influencers do out there. It's all fake and set up. But as you said, you're just naturally just sort of following what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and people just sort of feel attracted to that, which is, again, it's inspiring in itself, because it's just, this is just what a normal person is doing. You can do it as well, which is...
I think that's why I've managed to build like quite a tight-knit community on socials, because I hate encouraging people to do this. If you scroll back, you can see
the first ones that you were...
you can see all the ones where I was at D&G and I'm, running a small team, and you can see.
Well, you were talking about this last week when we met, and you were talking about what was the ones you used to do on Friday? It was the weekly wrap-ups, wasn't it, of what you'd been doing in the week?
But you can see the journey of my career online. So I think that's also why it stays relatable, because it's not been set up. It's every promotion, it's been on my socials. Every change, it's been on my socials. So people have been along the journey with me the whole time.
Yeah. Do you ever feel that, sort of on the flip side of that, do you ever get sort of like that exhaustion of having to post every day and having to put stuff on your stories to keep your content sort of fresh and to keep people engaged? Because obviously if you just decide, I'm just not going to post anything for a week, people will be like, well, what's going on? So do you almost feel that sort of element of, it's almost like another job in itself, to having to remind yourself, I've got to put this out there, I've got to put that out there?
It's definitely a full-time job.
Yeah.
I've had moments, because I've been regularly posting on socials, I would say, for the last 7 years or so now, right? So
and you post daily, every day.
Yeah. So you're looking at me like you're crazy.
No, but that's, look, you hear people who are on social media who do quite well, and they always say you have to post daily. You've just got to put some content out there. You've got to post it. And I can imagine when you're first trying to start out and you've got, 120 followers, it's like you're posting every day and nothing's happening. But then all of a sudden, you get one thing that sort of catches fire.
Yeah.
And it kind of grows from there. And then people want to stay engaged.
I had a video that did over 1 million views.
This was the big, was it Battersea Power Station, that one?
And then that like kind of elevated it. Yeah. But prior to that, I had been posting on socials for about 5 years, and not one of them had a boost. So, it comes in peaks and troughs. And I would say that the only exhausting thing about it would be to just continue that social presence, online presence, when you aren't getting as many views on your page as you were 2 weeks before that, because I don't set the algorithms on socials, and they're hard to catch. Sometimes you're more visible on people's pages than others. But to be candid with you, the amount of business that I get through socials is enough to encourage me to just
continue to
it's such a good stream of business for me that I see it as part of my business plan to continue to share my journey on socials.
Yeah, so from that perspective, you see it like anyone else who works in a sales role to pick up the phone and call. It's that's just the way that you're going to be getting business, is by posting. So when you put it like that, it's no, it's not. It's an extra thing that you have to do, but it's an actual way that you can create business for yourself and create sort of potential, leads and buyers and sellers and all that kind of stuff. How did you go about finding a style that worked for you? Was it something that, in terms of your social posts, we'll talk about your fashion style in a minute, Charlotte.
Okay, thank you.
I've met you twice in the last 2 weeks, and every time someone's complimented you on your outfits. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But from a social point, how did you go through that sort of process of finding your style posts that fit you in terms of what you want to put out there? Was it just trial and error? You just got to try things and whatever fits? Or was it just you put out things that you like the look of yourself and that you would then look for on other people's social posts?
In truth, I'm still trying, right? I've got a bunch of content that's coming out at the moment that even for me, I'm a bit like, ooh, that's a bit out there.
Yeah.
But I'm still, because trends and everything changes all the time.
Yeah.
There's obviously, there's like, I have people that I look at their socials and I'm like, oh, I love your page. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But I think you need to have your own USP, right? And my page isn't 100% polished, so I don't go for that look. I post everything out myself and I take 90% of the content myself, right? So there's an element of that will look that way. But it's trial and error and just having a good eye. I would say that's probably my main thing, is I'm quite OCD with photos and how I like things to look, and that naturally relays into my page. But that's about as far as it goes.
Do you not find, obviously, because you post about your personal life as well as your work life on there, are you fine with everyone seeing everything that you've got sort of going on, everything to do in your personal, obviously not everything, but most of the stuff? You obviously went to Paris last week and you were posting that when you were away with your little one. You're fine having that sort of veil lifted on seeing what's going on in your personal life as well as the work life? You're fine with that?
We're all human, right? And I think that's the difference, is I will let people in to a certain degree, like going to Paris, etc., because the amount of clients who have called me and been like, welcome back, how's your trip? Looked gorgeous, right? So I connect with my clients very much on a personal level. I'm on their personal pages, so I see all of their personal things. However, you'll notice I never post my child's face. I never post her name. So you don't actually know what's really, really, really going on in my personal life.
Yeah, because that needs to stay separate.
But you'll know elements of it. So I will always share, but I'm always aware of the level that I'm sharing. And my page started way back when, in lockdown, when I was posting motherhood content. And that was really personal. I was posting those, you didn't even follow me at this stage.
I think I did.
Really?
I've been following you for years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah,
the tap to tidy stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
That stuff, I remember that,
So I was posting like my messy room, and then you tap to tidy, thinking I was Mrs. Hinch. Literally. Thinking I was Mrs. Hinch. And then you see that. So, I mean, that was really, really personal. I don't do that level now, but I have a huge following that started following me from back then. So if I was to now only post 20 million pound houses and, these really super luxurious things in my life that I go into now, it just doesn't relate to the people who
have followed you since day one.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I was one of them, by the way. I mean, I've known you since 2018. Come on, I'm just one of these people that's just jumped on the bandwagon. No, it's just interesting to hear, because I think there's always been a bit of a pushback from some people who are old school on social media, and it's interesting to see the amount of people that are now embracing it, who 5 years ago were talking it down and saying you'll never be able to sell a house on social media. And you see those same people posting on social media, and some of them are doing well and some of them aren't, and they just can't get the traction on it. It's just quite interesting to see and to hear from someone that's obviously doing it well, and what's obviously working for you. But yeah, it's just interesting.
My thing with socials is you just never know where it reaches, right? So I'm in the process at the moment with a massive VIP from the US. and of a sale. And he came to me because he found me through socials.
Wow.
You know, I've listed properties with, again, big VIP names, like household names in the UK, who have come directly into my DMs because their contact or their child or their friend or someone shared. You know, you just never know where it gets to. So if you're not using that as a form of marketing, where it's a free online CV that you have control over, you're just missing out on such a trick.
No, 100%. 100%. Taking a bit of a sort of a step back a bit, have you ever felt that you've been underestimated?
100%.
Do you still feel like you're underestimated a bit?
I feel like no one in the world realizes the true goals I have for myself, or believes that I would have the ability to do them or to get there. But I think that's what drives me.
Do you love proving people wrong?
Yeah.
Why?
So I have issues.
We've all got issues, Sian, Louise. Everyone's got issues. No, but I mean, I think obviously, you know, you've come from, as I said, the corporate world. You're doing it on your own now. Well, not doing it on your own, but you're doing the self-employed model. There's going to be people that are always going to underestimate. But why? I mean, why do you think that sort of as a massive motivator for you?
Well, I'll give you an example, right? I started off as an agent in Southwest. And there's kind of this unwritten rule when you're an agent that if, you know, you work in Southwest or south of the river, you don't transact in prime central London, or if you work in North London, you know, it's kind of very boundary. There's a lot of divides. And I had tried probably 5-6 times at multiple different places of work to be able to work in prime central London, and I was told I wasn't able to, didn't have enough experience despite running departments for big corporates, you know, didn't have enough experience and I wouldn't be able to transact in prime central London. I went self-employed. Within 2 weeks I put something under offer in central London, and within 6 weeks I got it to complete. And I was like, you know, this is just people putting boundaries on you. Or
but do you think that comes from their own egos
100%
and their own mindsets, and not wanting to see,
they don't want to unleash the beast?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know, everyone wants you to do well, but in your pocket, and I don't want you to even have any means of coming into this pocket. So I think a lot of people underestimate what a lot of people are able to do, but also a lot of people aren't able or aren't willing to put in the work to get to that place. Whereas I've got a point to prove and I'm willing to put in the work. So
fair enough.
Good luck to you all.
Well, look, speaking of obviously the luxury prime central London market this year, obviously high-end buyers are described as sort of many things, cautious, bullish, or are they just bored? You know, how, obviously dealing with the buyers that you've been dealing with for the last year, how would you describe those type of buyers working in sort of prime central London now?
Well, we've had a lot of wealth leave the UK, right? Which isn't fantastic. But I would say that a lot of clients who are maybe trying to sell in that upper end of the prime, super prime world, you know, a luxury that they have is time. So a lot of the time they don't necessarily need to sell. So if the market isn't sitting where they don't want it to sit, that's fine. They'll hold it for a year. They'll hold it for 18 months. The reality with prime central London, you know, any market, the core market, prime market, super prime market, it's prime central London, it's London, you know, that market is resilient and it will always bounce back in whatever cycle it may take to do so. It will always do so. In talking with my clients who are in the US or who are in the Middle East, you know, they always find London very attractive because it's the centre of the world. So you can't tell me that market is not going to be able to recover and be able to get to the same results that it was previously. What I would say as well is that there's a lot of British who are seeing an opportunity to upsize and to now buy back into areas that they weren't able to be in previously. I just did some filming, which I can't tell you who for, but with people from the UAE, and I met a lot of really successful brokers from the UAE, and we were talking about how they're pitching London to their clients at the moment because of the opportunities in London, because the market not being where, you know, we would want it to be. So there'll always be opportunities when something isn't performing how you want it to perform. And in that, you know, more upper end of the market, they'll just hold until it gets to where they want it to get to.
Do you find that difficult though? Because obviously coming from Southwest London, when you were dealing with it sort of at corporate agency level, obviously things would just move a lot quicker. Do you miss that sort of the fast paced sort of side of it, or do you prefer this sort of things will just take its time? We just have to you just have to kind of ride it out. And then eventually when things do turn, there's still opportunities. As you said before, I think you made a really, really good point that in any market, there's always going to be an opportunity, but it's down to the buyer to make that opportunity, see if it's going to work for them. But do you ever miss that sort of the real fast pace where you know that in lettings in Southwest London in the months of sort of June to September, properties fly. It's really, really quick. It's really, really busy. Prime Central London's probably not that fast paced, but what out of the both of them, what do you think you sort of prefer? Obviously, you're probably going to say Prime Central London because you're dealing with it now, but do you miss that fast paced stuff?
Well, I work in all areas of the market, right? So I still transact in Southwest and I transact in Prime Central London, but I work in sales, I work in rentals, I work on the buyer side, the seller side. So if you're not busy in a slower market, that's a you problem, right? I'm incredibly busy. I'm always running around, but it's because I'm able to pick up whatever market I need to pick up, and I can service every sector of the market. So I'm still very fast paced.
Fair enough. You just put me back in my place. I'll just sit down. I'll move on to the next question then, shall I? I guess sort of the next question is, how do you handle sellers who are still clinging on to those prices that they were hoping to achieve back in 2022 when the market was really, really strong? How do you handle those type of, you know, vendors and sellers that want to go, well, no, my property is the best one on the street. Every property you go to is always the best one on the street. It's always the highest valued one. How do you find handling those types of sellers in today's market?
I'm a very honest agent.
No, really? I'm surprised by that, Louise.
So I will always give my very candid advice, as painful as that sometimes might be, even for me to say, right? I'll just always be very transparent. I like dealing with clients who respect that quality in me.
Would you rather lose a client in terms of someone that's just you're clearly like butting heads with in terms of the prices? If you're very honest with them and they're not happy with it, are you happy to just sort of walk away as opposed to going, okay, well, we can try it your way and see what happens? Would you rather just walk away?
It depends the type of relationship I have, to be candid. If they are a client who is understanding my advice, but they want to try X for whatever reason, they want to try X. And if X doesn't work, they're willing to come back to my advice, then we'll do that, right? But if a client is disregarding all of my advice, is being very argumentative, or, you know, however they want to be, then we don't need to continue to work together. Fair. So try it your way, and when it doesn't work, you have my number.
Fair enough. I think that's quite a. I think that approach is something that a lot of agents are afraid to have, because especially in the corporate level, it's all about stock. It's all about getting as much stock on as you can do, regardless of the price, and then, you know, get it on at that price and you can work it down. And I think agents are afraid to say no to a vendor who's trying to sell, because they'd rather have the listing and manage it. But the reality is if you get something on at too high a price and the seller's not going to budge, and they're going to be really, really difficult, it's just going to take up more of your time. That's just not going to go anywhere. And I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of just go, look, this isn't going to, I don't think I'm the right agent for you to work with. So if it doesn't sell, I'll always be here. Come back and talk. I think a lot of agents are afraid to have that conversation.
it's not a flattery thing, right? We don't get out of bed for free. So
No.
if we aren't going to get to a sale or a transaction,
Yeah.
why are we doing the dance? Let's not do the dance.
No, 100%. Where do you see the opportunity? Obviously, you've spoken about obviously having the social media presence and getting business through that way. But where do you see the biggest opportunity? Is it niche pockets? Is it foreign buyers? Is it off-market stuff? Is it social media? Where do you see sort of the biggest opportunity in your business?
I wouldn't really pigeonhole it to one thing, to be candid. I think there's definitely a lot of American money that's coming over at the moment. There's definitely a lot of parents, British parents, who are buying for children at the moment. And there's definitely a lot of new money that is like new young money that's searching for properties and agents that they want to work with on socials. So the combination of them all.
You got to be doing it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. What advice would you give agents who want to stand out online? They want to do the online thing. They want to get out there, but they just feel a bit stuck or they feel a bit nervous about doing it. What advice would you give to them?
What's the worst that can happen? You put something out and your mate says, "Oh my gosh, that video was awful." You say, "Yeah, that video was awful."
Thanks for the
right?
encouragement there, buddy.
Let me try a different one next time. You know, I think people are afraid to fail, and I think that's what holds people back from success.
Do you think that's why people are afraid to jump out of the corporate world?
100%. It's safe.
Because you're in your bubble, aren't you? You're protected. Obviously, you're still impacted by what goes on in the market. You can't help, if the economy's bad or buyers aren't coming into the market as much as they were. You can't escape that. That's always going to follow you around wherever you're going. But you're always, when you're working for a big corporate agent, you're always going to be protected. You're always in this sort of little bubble.
Are you though?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
Because how many big corporates have had changes? How many big corporates have done big mass redundancies? How many big corporates have been bought out and then got rid of half of, that's
true.
That's the problem. I think a lot of people stay in the corporate space because they feel like it gives an element of safety. They feel like they've got their mortgage or their rent paid and, they're comfortable there. But the reality is I actually find that space less safe because you wake up every day and someone's deciding whether you're going to stay in the job or someone's deciding whether they're going to pay your mortgage that day or I like being more in control of my own destiny and not having other people make decisions for it.
No, fair enough. Do you think everyone could do what you're doing or what people like you are doing in the self-employed model?
No.
Or do you think some people are just more suited for the high street sort of corporate agency?
You have to hustle.
Yeah.
And you have to, it's a very different type of person, someone who's self-employed to someone who likes to take demands from other people. Yeah, I don't think it's made for everyone. But I think a lot of people think that it's a lot easier than it actually is.
Why do you think that?
Because we glamorize everything on social media. No one sees that I was on the phone last night at 10 o'clock at night on the phone to a client.
No.
12 o'clock at night on the phone to a client in Australia. When you're working for yourself, you're always working, right?
You can't ever switch off.
No, Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning, I was doing viewings. In the corporate space, you're not doing that. But this is a choice that I choose to make because this lifestyle makes me more happy. Other people, their lifestyle is switching off on a Friday, going into the countryside for the weekend, not looking at their phone and only looking at their phone when they're back in London on the Monday. That makes them very happy. So it just depends on the type of person that you are.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I think it's interesting because I think everyone just assumes that everyone can do it. Everyone can jump into that space. Well, if I want to start posting, I'll just start posting tomorrow. But it's, are you going to be successful at it? Are you actually going to do it? Are you going to continue to do it? And I think that's a very, very different sort of mindset to look at. It's not for everyone, I think, as you said. But then also, working in high street agency, as you said, might make them more comfortable, gives them that little bit of security, what they're happy with, and they're happy to just do that. And I think you got to find the balance that works for you and suits you. But I think you are right in terms of the social media stuff and the online stuff. Everyone doesn't see the down days. Especially you look at a lot of people's content, it's always about the high of highs. It's never about the low of lows. But do you think there's almost like a why do you think people don't post as much of the lows as as much as the highs? Because some people never post anything negative that ever goes wrong. You never see I've just missed out on this deal, or this buyer's just gone. Why do you think it's just because you don't want to publicize it? Do you not want people to know that it's out there? Or
I think it just depends on the type of people, right? People have a mask, and a lot of people aren't like that in life. A lot of people will meet you in, human form and not tell you that they've had a horrendous day or
how's your day going? Yes, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people like to be like that anyway. And then when it comes onto the online space, that's just exemplified. So people like to follow positivity.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like to follow I've had a really bad day and this is what's happened. And, the reality of it. They like to see the glitz and the glamour and the heels and the handbags. That's what they like to see because that's an aspirational life for them.
Yeah.
They don't want to see that the last however many deals you've had have fallen through and, you've got to make it work. So there's pros and cons again to both.
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be an element of truth because otherwise you can start to appear very unapproachable. And we're all just humans, right? We're all normal people. We have good days, we have bad days. And I think that that's also a part of the journey that people need to see.
Would you be open to collaborating with anyone who's looking to get into sort of the property game?
In what sense?
Someone that's just starting out and wants to sort of grow their business, would you be open to sort of collabing with them? Or are you a bit more selective in terms of just, you're not just going to work with anyone?
I'm not just going to work with anyone.
Yeah.
But it's all a personality thing for me.
Yeah.
They could have 20 years worth of experience or 2 days worth of experience. If you have that inbuilt, you want to succeed and you want to hustle, then I probably want to...
They've got to match your vibe.
Yeah,
basically.
then I probably want to collab with you.
Fair.
But if you're looking to come along for the ride, which a lot of people have hit me up about and try and ride off of my platform, there's been a lot of hard work that's got to get me to where I am today. You're not going to open up
to anyone, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Obviously, you're in a high stakes world, working in prime central London, and obviously anywhere, but you're in a high stakes world. How do you sort of protect your own sort of energy and your own sort of self from everything that goes on a daily basis?
I'm not that involved. I just focus on my business, my clients, my child, my health, my fitness.
Yeah.
And I'm not involved. Yeah. I think you need to be able to have other passions outside of what you do in your day to day, whether you're working out or you have hobbies or you have other things that you do.
Yeah.
I have a passion for flipping properties. So stuff like that, I'm incredibly busy and I don't really have time to get involved in all the drama or everything else that goes on.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of like rituals or boundaries that help you stay creative and sharp? Like, is there something that you consistently do on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis, monthly basis that helps you stay who you are?
I work out.
Yeah.
I do breath work. I have a therapist.
Yeah.
I think all of those things are key to my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you find that they help you?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that we all live in such a fast-paced life.
Yeah.
That it's so easy to just be in go, 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 go. And you leave the person that you are behind and you don't actually ever fill your cup back because you're too busy chasing a deal or filling everyone else's cups.
Yeah.
Especially when you have kids as well. So, simple things like getting my nails done, going to the gym, having an hour to talk to someone once a week, breath work, 10 minutes in the morning, that just keeps me on a level path and keeps me content. And
keeps you who you are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. What does a day off look like for you?
No days off.
Are the days off? knew you were going to say that.
No days off. I would love a day off.
No.
I was in Paris and I was tying deals.
Of course you were. Why not? What a place to do it as well. Why not?
Right?
If you can't tie a deal in Paris, I mean, where are you?
I was like, I need to come back to Paris. This business has been good for me.
You've got some good vibes in Paris, clearly.
Yeah, I don't really take any time. I'm that person who's always on.
Yeah.
If a client contacts me, I'm always on my phone. I'm always available. But
do you find that frustrating sometimes, though?
No, because I'm a freak who loves her career and loves her job. But, you know, there will be certain times of the day that is just dedicated to my child, for instance. Yesterday, she had a drama show, bless her. And for that period that I'm with her, and then we went for a dinner after that, and until she goes to bed, that is just her time of my day. And then I'm picking my phone back up, and you know, it's just being able to structure your day around things like that.
But you're also not afraid to sort of blend those lives or those bits together sometimes, because obviously there's been some times where she's gone on viewings with you, and we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when you were pregnant and you were doing viewings with her. 8 months pregnant, you're walking to the top of X local blocks and all that kind of stuff. But you're not afraid to kind of mix both of them if the situation calls for it. Obviously,
yeah,
not going to do it on a daily basis.
No, I'm very lucky that I live in central London, right? So if there's a viewing that needs to happen on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I don't have childcare, then come on, hun, let's go and do a viewing.
And your clients are never find it an issue that you bring your little one along.
Everyone's a human.
They understand.
Yeah.
I think it's hard not to. I think especially nowadays, it's, you know, you're not always going to have mum and dad or uncle and aunties around the corner, or just someone that you can drop your kid off with. You know, I've had to do it sometimes. You know, you do it. You just have to find ways to make it work. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's nice as well, because then she'll obviously grow up knowing and seeing what mummy does, and
she has such an opinion on property. It's
I'm sure she
wild.
does. I can't imagine where she would get that from, though. Can't imagine why she's got that opinion. Do you see yourself as a mentor?
I've been approached for mentorship a lot of times.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel that people want you to mentor them?
I mean, not trying to sound egotistical, but you know, I've managed to achieve quite a lot in a short space of time in an industry that I was new to at the time that I joined it. So if someone is looking for a similar sort of journey, then it would make sense to approach someone like myself. You know, I've approached people in the industry that I've looked up to. So it's flattering, but also makes sense. Yeah.
Does it ever not that you need grounding, but does it ever sort of ground you to think, oh, hold on a sec, I'm actually doing a really good job here? It's actually a bit more sort of, I can do that, and I can understand why you are coming to me.
I don't really have a kind inner voice to myself. So no, I'm always striving for more, and I never think, wow, well done, you've made it. Because the goal is so big, Phil. Right. The goal is through the roof. So I'll never sit there and humbly think, yeah, I've made it. This is why they're approaching me.
What's the impact you want to leave behind? Not just in sales figures and all that kind of stuff, but what's the biggest sort of, you know, influence that you want to leave behind?
Generational wealth for my children's children.
Wow.
I haven't thought about that before.
No, clearly. That's just literally just rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, no, I want to be able to create enough opportunities so that she can live her dreams and not work through necessity, but work through passion and do things that she actually wants to do.
Would you be happy if she got into the same industry as you?
I'd be happy for her to do whatever she's passionate about. Which is, it's, you know, that's, let's rein it in here, but I just want her to be able to, you know, if she wants to be an artist, if she wants to be a performer, if she wants to do all of these things that historically are really hard, and I know that because I came from that world. You know, I had to do however many side hustles to be able to try and pay for that dream, whereas I just want her to be happy to be able to choose what she wants to do.
Fair enough.
I live for my child.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What excites you the most about the future of London and prime central London?
When things go down, they must go up, right? So I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities to come in the next few years. And I think the people who leverage those opportunities are going to be absolutely laughing in the next 10 years.
What do you see happening in 2026?
I think we're still going to be on a bit of a downward trajectory for a few years, if I'm completely candid. I think it's going to take a bit of a while to bounce back. Yeah. And I think agents who are spreading the narrative that that's not the case, you know, there's just too much wealth that's left the UK, realistically, for it to be that fantastic. Yeah. But there will always be opportunities for people in those kind of markets, and it will always, as I've said, it will always bounce back. So I think the people who take the opportunities now are going to be very, very happy in the longer term.
Okay. Where are we going to find you in 5 years' time? We're going to redo this interview in 5 years. We're going to timestamp it.
Ooh.
Where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing?
Are we going to be on a yacht?
Could be. Probably be your yacht. But might be the Prestige yacht. You never know. Could be.
Sometimes, keep things to yourself and let people watch the journey.
Fair play.
But there's a lot to come in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Some of which is already in motion.
Oh.
And keep your eyes peeled.
Very exciting. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I think it's been an incredible interview. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as much as I have. I've laughed a lot. Thank you very much. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.